Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing the second part of the maging video, which is, first part was well over a year ago. Today we're going to be talking about vitality and resistance overmages, how to do them, how I approach them, and typical, just kind of like tips, certain things that you can apply, certain procedures, and just the best way to get the best results. We're going to get right into it. Just before that, if you guys have not watched the previous one, then you might not understand some of the things that I talked about, namely sync. Sync's a major part of maging, and you just have to know it. I'll do a brief explanation here, but it might not be sufficient. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, go back and watch the previous video. I'll link it down in the description. If you do know what I'm talking about, then just bear through the quick, I'm going to quickly talk about what it is, and then once that's over, we'll get into maging. So today I'm actually going to be showing you guys the maging process on lower level items, but the thing is, these same concepts apply to higher level items. It's just typically more expensive. Like the runes are going to be more expensive because you have to, there's so many more stats. A lot of the times, like critical damage runes, more critical percentage, they just get more expensive, as well as like raw vits. Typically you need to use raw runes instead of the lower level ones because there's just those higher caps. But if I show you how to do it on low level items, if no matter what level you are, I picked out a good item, which is going to be this one, which we're going to do together. And first we're going to go through this one, but the concepts that I'll teach you through maging this one are universally applicable to maging. So just bear with me and we'll go over. Now I'm going to use this as a brief, quick example, just to show you the general approach. And this is like the most basic form of vitality over maging, which is going to be this ring. And then we're going to do this, which is going to be more of like a realistic maging experience. If you're maging something like this, typically when you're maging, the main idea is you want to play around with the stats until the thing with the biggest sync drops, whether it be the AP if that's available, MP secondarily if that's available, range if the AP or MP are not available, or summon lastly. Typically summon drops, like they only give you 30 sync, so you usually can't do too much with it, especially because you usually have to fix stats and all that, so it's not too easy. But you can always do something, and the main idea that you have to keep in mind is to always try to keep your stats really high so that when the AP or MP finally drops, to actually have your stats at a good level so that you don't have to waste sync fixing because it's already basically fixed. So we're just going to spam a few of these until the range drops. Typically you would be playing around with the different stats. For example, if I was on this amulet, I would be like trying to fix everything, trying to get it as good as I can, just kind of waiting for that AP to drop. Here we only have the one option, which is why this is the most basic form. But as soon as this drops, I'll do a quick cut and then we'll pick up, count the sync, and see where we go from there. Okay, so here the range dropped. Now unfortunately I was clicking a little bit too fast, so I ended up wasting an extra sync over here, needlessly, unfortunately. Typically this won't happen with items because you're not usually spamming runes. Here I was just kind of spamming because the only rune available to click is the intelligence rune. Now I could obviously put like an exotic rune, which is a rune that's not like native to the natural craft of the item, but there's no point because that's just going to lower the intelligence, so it was fine to do it this way. Let's quickly see where we're at here, and then I'll explain the basic idea. So as soon as the range or AP or MP or whatever drops, oops, I accidentally closed that. The approach you want to take is you want to figure out where you're at with sync, and then you want to start getting the stats to where you want them, how much sync you have left over. See if there's a difference between the sync that you want to use and the sync that you currently have. I'll explain what I mean by that in a second. And then just basically use up all the sync that you have to the maximum potential. So if I might explain what I meant by that real quick. So here we have range drop. Now range is 51 sync, which you can see if you just hover your mouse over it. Let me move this out the way. You can see it's 51, and this intelligence rune is 1. If you guys remember from the previous one, or if you already know, you know that over here I would have 51 minus 1 because I dropped the range with the 1 intelligence rune, and then minus 1 again. So 51 minus 1 minus 1 is 49. So let's say in a case like this, all I wanted to do was put on raw vitality runes. Each raw vitality, so I have 49, each raw vitality is actually 10 sync. So in a situation like this, where I would have 9 sync left over because I can't do, if I do 4 raw vits, then I'd have 9 sync left over. If I do 1 more, there's a good chance that it's going to actually drop off stats. There's 2 options. Either you use up that 9 sync to perfect your other stats, or you can try your luck and put on an exotic stat and hope that it crits. So I could do this, click it, And what that would do is if it crits on, so if it lands here like this, for example, like you can see here, +1, but in strength for this one. So if it does like +1 strength and doesn't do any minus sync, then I actually gained 1 sync because I got a crit and I got lucky. So now I would actually do a +1 and I would be ending up at 50 sync. The reason this works is because now that there's an exotic stat on it, the exotic stat's actually going to drop off first. So when I do, let's say, so if I did that and it crit on, next time I do a raw vit, it's actually going to do -1 strength and then plus vitality if the vitality lands. So the sync is actually going to do -10 +1 because I dropped off the +1 strength. So that's actually going to even out. So those are two techniques you can take. But I don't recommend using raw vits for an item like this. An item like this with no vitality, I recommend that you use the regular one. So right now we're at 49 sync. So what I recommend is that you just take 49 here and you start combining. Click, click, click. If it does not say minus sync, you can actually add 1. So I'm going to unactivate the mode and add 1. So we're back to 47. Click, click, click. Okay, that one didn't say minus sync. That one didn't say minus sync. So that's 2 of them. 1, 2. And you just click, 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 basically another one. So that's 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, 4. We got one more. Let's just keep clicking and then I'll do them all at once. And the place that you're going to stop, typically you want to stop using one of the type of the runes and move on to the next like tier of the runes. So you got vitality runes, then you got pa vitality, then you got raw vitality, which is the most powerful. Typically, in my experience, you want to stop using a rune at right around 18 times the base stat. So 18 times 5 is 90. So typically around 90 you want to stop using the vitality runes. Around then it starts to get a little bit more complicated to land on. And for example, a pa vitality rune, well, 15 times 18, I'm going to need the calculator for this. 15 times 18, it's about 270. After 270, it can get a little bit tricky. Now, you can go a little bit further. Some people say times 20, for example. You can go a little bit further. I've even known pavits to work up till like 350, for example. But that's when it starts to get a little bit harder. So I recommend, if you're doing with this, you go up until around 90 and then see if you can switch runes. So right now we're at 85, and the next type of rune is Pa Vitality runes, which actually has 3 sync. So I'm going to stop whenever this is divisible by 3, which the next one is going to be 18. So I'm going to use 2, 1, 2. Let's see what we saved. We actually had 1 extra that we crit on, right? So we're going to do that, put that on. Okay, so now we're at this, and I have 18 sync left. So what I'm going to do is pop this up, do 18 divided by 3, because, so I have a voice crack there, divided by 3. Divided by 3, which is just 6. And the reason we're doing this is because we're moving on to the next one. And each one of these is worth 3 of the previous one. And the sync kind of transfers over. As you can see here, the density is 1. And here the density is 3. So we could do 6 of these. So 1. Oh, that one crit on, so we can put an extra one. It crit because it didn't say minus sync afterwards. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that part is pure RNG. Oh, wait. What did I do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, okay, one more. There we go. And so when you have that sync, you're guaranteed for the stats not to drop. And here's the part that just becomes pure luck, which is to put the range back on. Now, there's something to note about this section here. You may choose to put the range back on at the start of the mage. So as soon as the range drops before you put the vitality, you can choose to put the range back on. The two ideas are, if you choose to put the range back on first and then fix the stats after, you are less likely to get high stats, but you are more likely to get the range back on. On the other hand, if you wait, just like I did, fix all the stats, do your over vitality, and then try to land the range rune back on, or AP or MP or whichever it may be, then what's actually going to happen is you're going to have a better chance of getting high stats, but you're going to get a less chance of landing the range back on. So now when I click combine over here, there's, I'm not going to say a low chance, but unfavorable chance that the range lands back on. Whereas had I done it at the start of the mage, there would have been a better chance, but I would definitely not have been able to reach 140 vitality. Typically, if you are going for a cheaper option, I recommend that you land it first. You obviously won't get as high stats, but you won't waste runes, like putting all these vitality runes, only to have them go off again as soon as I put the range. And also, since it's less likely to land, I'm also going to be wasting more range runes in the long run. And each range rune is worth 15,000. So if you're doing with AP, they're worth about 50,000 almost right now. So if you're broke or if you're poor or whatever, I recommend that you put it first. But if you're really trying to push those hard stats, you're going to want to put it afterwards. So now we just cross our fingers and click it. And no matter what the outcome, this is just the procedure. So whether it lands or not, okay. Whether it lands or not. Now this is something that you don't usually see with high level items. Low level items can be a little bit funny because there's so few stats. But typically, boom, there we go. So now it said failure, but the range landed. The thing is, this kind of a visual, it's just a bug like in the Ankama coding of the interface. This should say success and it should be green, but unfortunately Ankama's coding was a little haywire. But you can see that the range landed back. So now I have 140 vitality, full intelligence, Morello block, cherry ring. And you know, the 140 vitality is quite a lot. If you add that to each one of your items, you can get really, really, really powerful low level characters. So now we're actually going to move on to the next item, which is going to be a more legitimate item. And we're going to start maging this. The procedure is the same. You're just kind of going to want to mage. You want to keep the stats as high as you can and kind of yo-yo around with them, waiting for the AP to drop. The first thing I recommend you do on an item like this, if there's ever a negative, is you minimize that negative. So we're actually going to put back the advanced mode. So you're going to want to minimize that negative. So -6 is the minimum. For some reason it's not landing. Usually it's a lot easier than this. Go ahead. Come on. Man. Damn. Usually, yeah, that's a really unlucky roll. Usually it's not like that. But anyhow, because the reason is it won't change anymore. So this -6 AP parry won't go back to -7 just naturally while you mage. It could when you put back the AP, but while you mage naturally, it typically will not happen. So it's a good idea just to do it. Then you can forget about it and mage naturally. And then, as I said, you just kind of want to yo-yo with stats until you get something good and the AP drops, or you get something bad and the AP drops, but from then you count the sync, max out the stats, and it's the same procedure. So now I'm just going to be playing around with the stats, putting rune after rune, and we're just waiting here for the AP to drop. I'll probably put this section in accelerated, but here's some general advice for you. Don't try and max out one thing and then try and max out the next thing. Try keep everything moderately good. So for example, instead of doing one damage at 10 and the other one at 8, try do both at 9. Instead of doing one chance at 40, the other one at 30, try do both at 35 to 38. You know, try keep them at moderate stats so that once the AP drops, you're actually quickly able to fix it. So now I'm just going to be clicking runes and I'll see you when the AP drops. All right, here we go. The AP dropped. So the AP has dropped and then I clicked a rune after that, but it's fine because we would have had to click that rune anyways. It didn't land, unfortunately, so you can see down here. What we're going to do is take out a calculator once more. And the AP drop, and AP is worth 100 sync. So we're going to put 100. And over here, we dropped it with a air damage rune. And all of the elemental damages are worth 5 each. And then we put on a water damage rune. So that's -5, which is -10. If you actually look up, you'll see that there's a line here with a plus sync. So you can actually, sync actually carries over, right? So even when the AP drop, it doesn't reset. So whatever sync positive that you had from before also gets carried over into the AP drop. So as long as there's no minuses after the positive, we should actually include this. So we'll do a quick count. So now we're at 90. So this section here is at 90, but let's just add what we had here. So 8 vitality, 8 times 0.2, because each singular vitality is worth 0.2 sync, is 1.6, plus 1 from the chance, plus 1 from, no, plus 5 from the water damage that dropped, and then -3 from the agility that we used to drop all of it. So we're actually at 4.6. Now what I'm going to do is just add that to the 90 that we had from this section down here. So we're going to do equals. So now I'm at 94.6, and here's the section where you actually want to pause. You want to think about what stats that you want. Actually, you probably want to think about this before you start maging, but in general, you usually have a goal. But in general, so you have to know what you want and set minimums for yourself. Let's say for me, I want, without a doubt, I want 40-40, and then wisdom can be at least 26, and then I want 10, 10, and 6. So that's what I want. So first thing I'm going to have to do here is fix up all the stats, and then we start going for over vitality. Because if I over vitality and then start putting on stats, then the vitality is just going to drop. Because nothing will drop as long as I have sync, unless there's an over or an exomage. They will also drop. But if I don't have any of those, then nothing's going to drop. So now we're at 94.6. I can ignore looking at this thing for a while until I get my minimum stats, because either way, those are my minimum stats. So I don't really have to consider the sync for this. So what we decided is I want 40 and 40, 26 is fine. I need that water damage up, and then we're going to go for vitality. I'm going to leave vitality for now, and we're just going to go for this. Now, I could try and do +1 chance runes, for example, to get this to 40, but it's fairly unlikely to land. Unfortunately, it's just the way that it is. It's fairly unfortunate. It's fairly unlikely to land. As I said, usually they go up to around times 18, times 20. Around this section, they're not going to land. So what we're going to have to do is a technique that doesn't really have an official name, but it just kind of goes by like over and drop, right? So we're going to click this, go over the maximal stat, and as I said, when you go over something, then the next runes that you put are actually going to drop down that overmage. So I've actually prepared for this by bringing strength runes with me. +1 strength runes. Typically you'll see people use initiative runes. Initiative runes, strength rune, doesn't matter. You just want runes that have +1 sync. Or in a situation like this, +2 sync, because I have a 2 overmage, and I could drop both of them with 1 rune. But it doesn't matter too much. It can matter in some very specific cases, but we'll ignore those for now. So what I'm going to do is click them both. And what actually happened here is one of the strength landed, so I actually get one of the syncs back. So if we open up the calculator again, at this point, typically you would be able to do a +1. Now, obviously you did lose a 3 here, so we're going to ignore this whole section for now. We're going to count everything at the end. First, let's just fix all that we have here. So I'm going to put that on, see if that lands perfect. We're going to drop it back down with one of the strength runes. I still need to fix that water damage. There we go. So now we're ready to approach our over vitality. Let's quickly count where we're at in terms of sync. So we said we were 94.6 at this section here. So then we did a Pa chance rune, which is a -3 because it has a weight of 3, density 3. You can see it there. And then you can see here, this is where we put on our strength rune. We dropped a chance and put on a strength as an Exomage. And forget about what I said about adding the sync. Just consider the next line. Here we have 3 -1 strength. So that means we actually gain back the sync from the strength. So we get +1, but then we lose 3 because we put on the Pa agility rune. So +1 -3. So we're actually at 89.6. And then here nothing happened. And then here we got a -5. So right now we're at 84.6 sync. 84.6 sync. We're going to go for a vitality overmage. Just for the sake of it, let's try and make this a perfect item, like really nicely rounded stats. Let's actually fix up that wisdom to 30, just for the fun of it. So I'm actually going to do this and then Pa. Perfect. So what that's going to do to our sync is -3, -9, so that's -12. And now we're at 72.6. Now I'm just doing this. I'm going to do like a few things just to help you guys gain a few like maging concepts, right? This is not exactly how I would normally mage, but like normally I wouldn't really care about having that wisdom, and now I would actually just go to see how much vitality I can get. But I'm going to try and perfect that vitality just to give you guys like a quick idea. So if I do a Pa vitality rune here, I'm at 151. Now what I was saying about the specific cases is, for example here, if I put on a strength rune, it's equal to 1 sync. And 1 sync in terms of vitality is 5. So when I do it, I'm going to get -5. But for some reason, the way the game is coded, you sometimes also get -6. I'm not sure exactly why this works, but sometimes you get -6. So if you want a perfectly round number, like if you're OCD, then at this point you would cross your fingers and hope for a -6, which is what we got, luckily. So now I can either try my luck with a +5, or I could just do this and then try drop it down again back to 150 and then go from there. Or we can just go from here. Now I have a rounded number, a multiple of 5. So, you know, we can just say, let's go from here. I did a -3 there. So we're now at 69.6. 69.6 at this stage, I would probably just do Pa vitalities. +5 vitalities won't land too well. Raw vitalities are a little bit excessive. I would say at this stage, I'll do Pa vitalities, which have a sync of 3 each. So that means I can do 23.2 runes. Obviously, 0.2 runes doesn't mean anything. So we're just going to do 23. And we're going to click, click, click. And here we just cross our fingers, and this is just the RNG part. I can't do anything to control it. I can't do anything to better it. Maybe switch the rune, that could help, but you know, can't do that much. Let's see here. So here I could actually switch gears and do 3 raw vitalities, and then if one lands I would have 255. Could be a good option, or I could go for exactly 250. I would need 3 of them to land. So we'll try go for that exactly. I need 2 more to land. Boom, land. Too bad. And none of them crit either, so we're at 235. And as I said, again, we're gonna, this part is not something that I can control. We're just gonna have to click that AP rune and fingers crossed. And that's basically the procedure we're gonna have to take. Fingers crossed, 3, 2, 1, and it landed. Okay, perfect. We got 2 for 2 this video. So we actually ended up with these stats, which are pretty solid. I can sell it, make decent profit in the market. Especially this one, perfect stats. Now the vitality is not too high, but I can still sell it for a decent price, hopefully. And I believe that's kind of it. Now, typically there are some items. Let's see here. There are items, for example. Let's take this belt. I'm gonna do a quick review of how you would go about maging something that doesn't have an AP or MP. For example, this one. You have 2 options. Either you cross your fingers and hope for a crit. So you're gonna do like Ravit and hope it lands on without dropping anything, which is rare, but if you just keep powering through it, eventually you'll get it. Or you kind of select some stats that you're okay if they drop off. And once you selected those stats, you just hope that when you put the vitality on, it drops off those stats, which is more likely than the first option. So we're actually going to combine some of my pod runes here into bigger pod runes. So we're going to do some couple of POW ones. Let's do 200. Boom, we're going to do that. Shoe mage. The reason I'm doing this is because I think pod runes are the least important ones here, so I'm okay to drop them. So I'm going to fix up the pod runes, fix up the stats that I want. So we're going to do this. I want exactly 35 intelligence. So let's go, boom, boom, boom. We go over. Let's fix that up. By putting a vitality, I can actually drop the intelligence back down. There we go. Wisdom's a little bit low. Let's do that. Let's put a couple more fire damage on. Boom, boom. And hopefully, as we fix the stats, the pods will start to drop. And then you have 2 options. Either you can transrune it, or you can actually have 3 options. So you can either transrune it, hope for a crit, or hope for the pods to drop when you put on the Ravit. It's kind of your luck, but we'll just give it a try here. We'll do one quick try, just kind of see what happens. So let's do this, boom, boom. So now we're at 51. I'm going to do a Ravit, and here you have those different options of things that can happen. Let's see what happens with us. We got a pretty unfortunate roll. Let's try another one. And there you go. But if you just keep trying, you'll eventually get it. It's a lot harder to do consistently good mages without AP or MP sync, which is why a technique that's often employed, not on blop items, but on higher level items. For example, when I mage my Sharp Eye Cave, if you guys saw that video, is to actually put an AP Exo on it, drop the AP Exo to gain back 100 sync, and then after that, go ahead and, what did I even say? Drop the AP, get 100 sync, and then after that, use that sync to fix up the stats. Anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. That's it for today. If you guys have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. And if you do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, and also leave a comment, to boost that YouTube algorithm. And drop a like as well. I will see you next time. Have a great day, and goodbye.